And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, JP Warren. And before we get kicked off, I got to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants, Inc. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And thanks for tuning into Round the Rotary. You can find us on Instagram at Round the Rotary, round_the_rotary_ JP Warren, I believe, and YouTube and wherever you're tuning in from. We appreciate it. We know there's a lot of podcasts out there, especially since COVID a lot more picked up. So we appreciate you tuning in today. And with us in the studio, and we're also doing this on Clubhouse Live, something that you just downloaded yesterday.
I did. Clubhouse. Still haven't figured it out.
So the people that are listening that don't know the voice, this is Laura Fidler, the CEO of Century Natural Resources. Mm-hmm. And I got all that correct.
You did. Good job.
So you can't figure out Clubhouse?
No. It reminds me of when I downloaded Snapchat and tried to figure that out, and I had to find a youth to help me figure it out.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Hello, children. Please help me figure out Snapchat.
Well, at least I can't stand it when people don't understand how to use like an app, and they know the name of the app. You know what I mean? They know it's called Instagram. They know it's called Snapchat. But when they're like, I don't know how to work Instabook, they purposely butcher it. And it's like, you're not being funny. Trying to butcher it, being like, oh, I don't get technology. It's like, no, it's on your phone. And
you definitely get it.
Yeah, you send me stuff all the time, so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, no,
so, right. I don't know what the point of Clubhouse is either. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as I said, as we were talking earlier, last night we had that satire comedy, Terminator versus Resistance.
I love that idea.
And it was pretty good. It was it kind of got into some weird avenues and weird bullshit rant, but it was fun. It was a good time, and I'm not sure what it's gonna, but I think it's gonna be a good networking thing. I think it's gonna be good kind of. I don't know its potential.
Did you listen to the Elon Musk Kanye one?
No, I didn't.
Me either, but that's why I got it, was to listen to that, and I kind of couldn't figure it out.
I don't think I think some rooms with like that, there's like a wait room.
Yeah, you have to like click in and wait list it.
Yeah. I don't do lines. Like if I go to like, I'm a fast pass guy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's not a question of,
Pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not luxury, it's laziness. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
And like when, back in the day when I was going out, when you could go out, I hated going out waiting in lines. You know what I mean?
Nobody does that.
No.
Yeah, I'd rather go to the dive bar across the street than wait in a line.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm not sure what's going to happen with this, but anyway.
Hey, you got it though.
I know. It's one of those things too. It's kind of like exclusive right now. Yeah. So you kind of feel, there's like pompous, like, oh, you're not in Clubhouse yet.
Totally.
I'm like, well, what's Clubhouse? I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm on it.
No clue.
No idea.
Actually, I called my operations engineer yesterday, Ryan Leachman.
Yeah.
And we were talking about something completely different. And he said something about Clubhouse. I'm like, wait, you're on Clubhouse? He goes, yeah, I have an invite. You want to be on Clubhouse? I'm like, yeah, I need to be included. I got FOMO out the wazoo. Tell me how to be on Clubhouse.
That's the thing. Everyone's talking about it, but nobody has any idea what it is.
Nobody knows what it is. I know. It's so bizarre. It's hilarious.
There's a lot of like influencers that want to be influencers. Like, oh, you need to be. I'm like, I don't want to go in that chat room. I don't care about that. Exactly. Or like, invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bitcoin talk. And that's one of those things, again, I'm out of that combo. So it's like, I'm not going to join in because I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have 40 grand to buy Bitcoin.
One coin.
A coin.
A coin.
It doesn't even exist.
But you could buy some Dogecoin.
Dogecoins are hot these days, aren't they?
And diamond hands.
Isn't it crazy? It's the weird shit that's out there, but it's actually a market.
It's a market. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I actually signed up for Robinhood last week, too.
Oh, yeah.
Way behind the times. Way behind the times.
I kind of feel you should have said I signed up for them like 2 months ago.
Somebody was giving me shit about it, too. They're like, God, you are the problem, Laura. You're the problem here.
You're jumping in. You are jumping in.
You're the man.
You're jumping into the problem when the problem's there. You know what I mean? You are inserting yourself.
That's how I am, though. I'm like, oh, a problem? Hey, what's up?
What's
I'm here. Let me give you my opinion.
Because that's very requested these days. Exactly. Everyone's opinion.
Everybody wants an extra opinion.
Everyone wants what everyone needs to be told what they should think and feel and how it's wrong or right.
That's exactly right.
And that's the world we live in these days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why don't you get us kicked off and give us your background? We've got a couple interesting things to talk about today. And thanks for joining on this rainy,
40 degrees,
gloomy day. Yeah, it's going to be like this for the next week.
When it's supposed to freeze.
Yeah, Monday?
Yeah, and maybe snow.
Yeah, I think so.
I've lived in Houston for 8 years. Last year was my 10-year Texiversary.
Okay.
So it's been 10 years since I moved to
Austin
first, and then to Houston. And I was thinking this morning, I can't remember if I've, number one, ever seen snow in Houston.
Right.
Or number two, seen it, like, maybe once I've seen it freeze.
And it was gone by 11 o'clock that morning.
And gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually, like, pretty unprecedented.
So you are born in Boulder.
Correct.
All right. That's and you and my wife share that
Yeah,
common
which I love.
common
It's
bond.
so funny. And there's not very many of us in Texas. So
Not many
it's
Boulder
a big
people?
deal. Yeah, hardly any.
Okay.
I rarely run across them. And if they are, they're like, well, I went to college there, or I love Boulder, I'm from there.
They're not true Boulderites.
No.
Is that
I'm Boulderite.
Boulder Knights.
Boulderite. Stop saying Boulder Night.
So authentic Boulder Knights. Okay. So let's start there. So let's take us back. So you grew up in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Born and raised in Boulder.
Okay.
Third generation. So my family had been around for a really long time. Mm-hmm.
In Boulder?
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to that square in Boulder, and there's that really cool like old school picture of like what Boulder was first, and there was that I think it was a school first,
Yeah.
and it was surrounded by nothing. And
Chautauqua, yeah, the Chautauquas.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
It was actually a teacher community that started in New York State, and then I think it was either their second or third was in Boulder. It had been around for 100 years. They had the centennial I think it was right before I left town. It's a wonderful place to grow up. Obviously, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Lots of outdoor activities. Probably too affluent at this point, in my opinion.
Didn't Google or something move there?
Google moved there a little while ago. Having the university there made it just bring a lot of wealth in anyway.
Right.
And then once Californians discovered it, it just got taken over.
And then they keep on moving to the east.
Yeah, and so my grandparents were from, my grandmother was from Cleveland area, and my grandfather was from Nebraska.
Okay.
And my grandfather was the last doctor who did home visits in Boulder, which is very cool.
Really?
Yeah, and she was a nurse. So they came to Boulder in the 1950s, kind of settled down there. Were like, I don't know, they had like this drinking club that they partied with other buddies with, and Papa was the last guy around town doing home visits.
Pretty much sounds like an oil field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they were so low key and like from the Midwest and just normal. And they raised their 3 kids there. And my mom was obviously born and raised there. And my uncle was actually a geologist.
Okay.
So I went to school at CU Boulder for my undergraduate. And
what was that? What was your undergrad in?
Oh, great question. So I started as an art major.
Okay.
Yes, because I had always been really interested. I went to an art middle school, actually, and then I was a ballet dancer the whole time and all this crazy stuff.
Monica's a ballet. She's a ballet as well.
She is?
Yes.
Do you know what group she was with? You find out later.
Yes.
We'll bond over this.
Okay.
So I was a ballet dancer and always did a lot of art and started as an art major at CU. And my uncle called and he's like, you should consider taking some geology classes. You like being outside so much. Like, maybe just think about it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll take rocks for jocks. Meanwhile, had also started, I call it pre-med degree, but it's really integrative physiology, which is like exercise science.
Okay.
So bailed on art, started exercise phys, and then jumped into geology also. So I ended up dual majoring in geology and exercise science.
Do you still do any art as a hobby?
Yeah, I do. Primarily painting, sometimes photography.
Okay.
My house has a lot of my artwork in it, and it's sort of I have it around.
So do you have it around so when people come over, like, oh wow, where'd you get this piece? You're like, I took it.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fluff myself up.
A little brag.
Totally. I did find, and nobody's really ever asked, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of sucky at it.
I think if it got to that point, I would bring it up. Like, wow, look at that piece. I never really noticed it. It's on my wall. I never really noticed it. Look at it.
I do have one piece that I'm getting framed that I did in high school that I just recently found again in my old sketchbooks. So I'm hoping that once that's framed, I'm going to put it in the bathroom and hopefully somebody will notice and, give me praise. I'm a millennial, I need a gold star.
I get it. Yeah. I know you need that real world like.
Yeah.
Right.
I need that. Give me that thumbs up.
Yeah. So I think I'm a photographer as well with all the filters I use on Instagram. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have an anti-filter on Instagram, but it's cool.
I've actually started gravitating towards anti-filter with just a picture, but that's my little secret. We don't have to divulge that.
We always put those little sunglasses on everybody.
Well, that's during the stories.
Oh, okay.
So today's story was so I released the one Monica and me today,
Yeah,
and so the song on that was her when she was singing on The Voice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I usually put like a rock and roll song, but this one I put her singing
amazing.
it. So
I love it.
Double major.
Yeah, so I-Fi and geology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you enjoy geology?
I loved it.
Okay.
Actually, so because my grandfather was a doctor, grandmother was a nurse, I always wanted to become a doctor. And about halfway through my program, I realized that pre-med students suck. They're
Why?
like super competitive.
Okay.
It's a long story, but I got hit by a car on my bike riding to school. And the next day I had 3 exams. 2 IFI related exams like anatomy and phys, and then a geology test. I think it was invert paleo, which is the dorkiest class of all time. Not dinosaurs paleo, but like tiny bugs. It was terrible.
Please keep going.
Anyway, that is the correct response.
Please keep going.
Okay. So I got hit by this car. I had to go to the hospital. I had a concussion. It was my second concussion. I've now had 3, so that's fun. And I ended up having to contact my professors and be like, I can't come in and take these exams. And they were, the last one before the final, whatever. Both pre-med classes were like, tough. You'll have to take a 0. And I'd call my buddies in the classes and be like, can I get notes? I need to study. Like, can you help me out? And they'd be like, no.
So there's
because they're all so competitive to get to med school.
So there's no sense of community.
None.
It's more
None.
survival of the fittest, survive by yourself.
And geology, I think I graduated with a total of 8 people in my class. And CU is huge, right? And my physiology class was probably in the multiple hundreds, like 400 or 500 kids.
Yeah.
Geology was 8 people. And we would go, we never did field camp, which is a geology thing. We did field classes.
Okay.
So we'd spend 3 or 4 days most weeks out in the field.
That's awesome.
Hiking around and doing it. It was amazing. It was so fun.
I would assume
they trick you though, because they're like, you get to be outside as a geologist. It's great. Bullshit. No, you're fucking trapped to this desk for the rest of your fucking life making shitty maps.
You were outside in school, and then once you get that, recess is over. You're back in class. I would assume that medical, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I would assume that medical, I guess, environment of constantly competing, number one, I would imagine that would lead to some unethical actions by some to make sure you're ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
I'm sure there was all kinds of cheating.
Yeah.
I didn't really care enough about it. I love geology, so I kind of, I did fine in school, but I just ended up focusing on geology because it was so much more fun, and I enjoyed the people I was with, and it was really fulfilling and super fun.
So after you graduated double major, and then what was
I went
next?
straight over to Williams Companies.
Okay.
In Denver, and I worked the Piceance Basin. So we were running, when I started, it was 2008. When I started, we were running 21 rigs in the Piceance. And then within 2 months, we dropped down to 4 rigs because that was the 2008 crash.
Oh, okay.
So I'm this undergrad geo, have no fucking clue what's going on. Everybody's scrambling, everybody's freaking out, and I'm just like derping around, like, geology.
What's the big deal?
Let's go outside and look at rocks because that's a thing.
So everyone understands the impact of these rig drops, and all of a sudden here you are like, what's the big deal?
Totally. Yeah. And my uncle was like, you need to be careful. Like, this is going to be a big thing. And
they'll come back.
It's fine.
They'll come back.
So that was tough. I didn't love working there because I was basically just making geoprogs like over and over and over. And I tend to be on the more creative side, obviously, art,
with
major,
art,
whatever, all that kind of stuff. So big picture thinker. I didn't like it very much, so I decided to go back and get my master's degree. In between, so I worked there for a couple years. In between, I went on a 6-month trip around the world with my best friend, which was amazing.
Now, was this like backpacking or like luggage?
Backpacking.
Oh, really?
Like shoestring budget.
Yeah, like
hostels. We stayed in a $4 a night place in India where there were baby kittens outside the room and the walls were falling apart. Like change your life kind of stuff.
Like legitimately, like
yeah.
So where'd you go in this?
Oh man, we visited 13 countries. I don't know if I'd be able to get them off the top of my head. We did like Southeast Asia, all of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
And we went over and did India, Nepal, and then ended up. We were supposed to go to North Africa, but it was a couple years before Arab Spring. We'd run into this Moroccan woman, and she was like, do not go.
Okay.
Do not go to Africa. So we skipped Africa. Also, we were out of money.
Yeah.
So mostly Southeast Asia though, and it was incredible. It was really.
And how long did you do that for?
It actually was 5 months because we were supposed to stay an extra and we ran out of cash. So
that's still a good amount of time. Living out of a backpack.
Yeah, absolutely. It was super fun. We had a blast. And then eventually, about halfway through that, I had applied at CU Boulder, Mines and UT, both for alternative programs, not geology programs. They were like you could build your own program basically. So I originally started at UT in the EER, Energy and Earth Resources.
Okay.
So you could take law, you could take engineering, you could take geology, you could take policy, like all different kinds of things. So I got into those programs while I was abroad, and got into both and was like, you know what? I need to get out of Colorado. I need to broaden my horizons. Here I am over in Southeast Asia. Why not go to Texas?
Get out of your comfort zone.
Fuck it.
Okay.
Come out. Let's do this.
And it's not a bad. Austin's not a bad place to if you're going to get out of Colorado.
Oh, it's perfect. Transition. It's a transition.
Transitional.
Yes, it's a transitional place.
I like that. Okay.
So I had never been to Texas though.
Okay.
And so I get back from my trip. My good friend and I get in the car. We drive down. And the day I arrived in Austin, it was 115 degrees.
Nice. Yeah. Miserable.
Miserable. And I'm sitting there like, oh, what did I fucking just do?
Yeah.
This is terrible. And idiot, I decided to walk from my house where there was no electricity. At the time, we hadn't turned it on because I'm an idiot. And I wanted to walk to my meeting with my advisor, which was a mile away.
Oh, so you just get there, you're drenched.
Oh my God, what an idiot.
It's like Top Gun.
Yo, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was not as sexy as Top Gun.
Well, no, I'm talking about Top Gun. You know what, like Top Gun, like they're always sweating. Like they get out of the shower, they dry off, and it's like sweat. You're like, oh, it's God.
Terrible. Yeah. So getting to Austin was very bumpy. But then went to UT for my master's degree in geology. I ended up switching out of the EER program because geology had better job placements. And ultimately, I just wanted to be a geologist.
So what year did you graduate with your master's?
13.
Okay, 2013. Mm-hmm. And then where'd you go after that?
After that, I started immediately at Anadarko, like less than a month after.
That was such a good group.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that we know that have kind of, Brent, Patrick, who you're working with now, Rhett, Bullock, Dan Ditz. There's a lot of great people at Anadarko back in the day.
It was a perfect place to kind of cut your teeth and get to know the oil field. And I was a lot of good opportunity, right? So I am of the opinion that a geologist needs to work ops. Like you have to be an ops geologist at some point to be a good geologist. Because if you don't understand what's happening with drilling, you don't understand what's happening with fracking, you don't know what you're doing. And you need to understand the commerciality behind it too. So my first rotation at Anadarko, I had done my master's on the Marcellus Shale. So they popped me into the Marcellus group, and I was working Marcellus ops for, I guess I worked that for a couple years, drilling wells, making maps, like geoprogs, the whole thing. And, when you're geosteering, staying up all night, getting to the office, working all day, it's exhausting, but it's also super fun and super fulfilling. And I love going to the rig. That's where I learn the most.
Back to the outdoors.
Yes,
Getting back outdoors.
Well, kind of. Yeah. It's amazing. It's super fun. So I did that for a couple years, and then Anadarko moved me into a onshore exploration role.
So real quick, so you talked about doing the geology role, but then you talked about doing the ops geology thing. I don't know, but
okay.
So was this one of those things where it's like you took the initiative and said, I need to learn ops. I'm gonna get on this, or was it one of those things where they told you to do this?
They told me to do it. And I was like, fuck this. I don't fucking want to do this. This is slave labor. I went to UT, the fanciest fucking geo program.
Don't you love the ego?
Ego.
Yeah.
Ego, man. We talked about this earlier, but my ego was through the roof at that time.
Right.
So get popped into this ops group, not by choice, and ended up loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, oh shit, okay, this is actually kind of cool. I can't tell anyone I like it.
Because you're over here bitching about it before, but now it's like, actually, it's kind of fun.
This is amazing. And my uncle again, Rick Gieseman's my uncle, and he had been an ops geologist for 30 years.
Okay.
And was like, you're gonna love this. You need to calm down. Like, this is gonna be great for you. So did it, loved it. Got moved over to onshore exploration.
Okay.
And started doing exploration geology, which was fabulous. I ended up working, 4 or 5 basins within a year.
So you're getting all this exposure.
Tons of exposure. Really figured out efficient ways to do like exploration mapping and prospecting and stuff like that.
And so who whenever you do one of these maps, who are you talking to with this onshore exploration?
It really depends. Obviously, the process at an Anadarko, you have to go through multiple levels of people. So the first point of contact would be your engineer. So if Patrick and I had been on the same team at the same time, we missed each other by a month, which is hilarious. Yeah,
Small world.
He joined my team right after I left.
That just shows you how small the oil field is.
So small. So First point of contact is reservoir engineer. They kind of help you build up the model, kind of get things ready to go. Then you go up to like a VP level, so VP of exploration. You run it through them. You do some risking. So you've got some people who understand risking, usually like a mentor type person helping you with that. Go up to the VP level. If economics pass, then you then present it up higher. And then eventually the whole goal is to get funding for your project and your prospect to be able to go and test the idea.
So not only are you getting exposure with all these different basins and formations throughout the lower 48, but you're also getting exposure on layers above you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that was good. I think, it really helped me hone in on commerciality. What is important? Why am I doing this? How do I do it? How do I reasonably estimate the risk on some of this stuff? And in the meantime, lots of like technical projects on the side too.
So it gave you kind of a bit of a more holistic approach on why this company's doing this.
That's exactly right. So then subsequent to that, I think I left in March of 2017.
So that was, let's frame it up. That was, I mean, that was downturn, but we still weren't out of it.
Right. Yeah, so Anadarko had gone through 2 rounds of pretty major layoffs.
Was that when did they move to?
That was the Midland move.
Okay.
I was not asked to go to Midland. But I had this unfortunate run-in with somebody in the hallway one day where I was saying, if they fucking asked me to fucking go to fucking Midland, I mean, the string of curse words that came out of my mouth was pretty nasty. So, and then, of course, a VP walks by while I'm doing this.
I was going to say.
I know. And he's like, Laura, I need to speak with you about something. And so we like go into my office and he's like, I don't care that you were cursing that much. It doesn't fucking matter. And I was like, oh, thank God. Whew. He's like, you need to be careful about what you say about getting moved because somebody just got fired yesterday for saying they wouldn't move. So just like, be careful.
No, I wasn't saying that I wouldn't move. I was doing an impersonation of who I was talking to.
This is move.
I was making fun of David.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what David was saying, not me. I'm a team player.
I'm a team player. I would totally move to Midland.
I remember that. That was a pretty big. That was a pretty big conversation in the oil field. Yeah,
because they didn't really give an option.
And it was done very. What I know, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I've heard it was done very. Not a lot of personality. Not a lot of
care for humans.
Yeah.
Not a lot of care for family.
Which is such a different Anadarko than what it was in 2013. I mean, it was like one of the top places to work. Anyway.
Yeah, big shift. My cousin is also a geologist. He's now at EOG.
Okay.
And he did take the Midland package and moved out to Midland.
Okay.
So that was interesting because I was like, okay, well, bye. I'll miss you. I guess I'm here by myself in Houston. Stupid Anadarko. And, at that point, the culture had changed. And so 2017, I'm sitting there thinking, what do I want to do? I eventually wanted to go to Offshore International, which is like every geo's dream, is to work big seismic and like do this whole thing. And it just wasn't on the horizon for me. I feel like I kind of niched myself out because I was pretty decent at what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so they were never going to move me. And I realized that, and I had already had a little bit of exposure to the PE model when I was working in Anadarko Basin. There were a ton of mergers and acquisitions happening at that time. It was a very dynamic kind of thing. And I was like, I want to go test out the PE thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I left and I went over to a group called Plantation Petroleum.
So this was a personal decision where it's like, you're like, I kind of want to know more about this. So you just kind of started looking and asking around. Okay.
And after the big payouts that all those folks at Anadarko had, I was pretty fucking pissed off at myself. Dang it, I could have lasted 2 more years.
That reminds me of my buddy Luke McDougall, who's over at Anadarko. That dude has the worst luck out there. I mean,
hindsight's 20/20, right? Like, what are you gonna do?
He was at Newfield. He submitted his 2 week. Like, submitted his 2 weeks. I think the next day they announced their acquisition merger, and he just lost out on that opportunity. Then it's just every single time he gets in a situation. He can order a chicken sandwich and then forget the chicken. That actually happens.
One of those guys. Yeah. So I took off and went over to this group called Plantation. Drilled a couple horizontal San Andres wells. It was an NCAP backed company. So it was interesting kind of feeling out that whole different side of the world. It's totally different.
Did you like it going from Anadarko's publicly traded company to
Okay. I think I fit a little bit better. I'm a little more entrepreneurial than like your Anadarko type. To be perfectly honest, I don't think I really fit in there very well. I think that's, I would have been fine if I'd stayed, but also like it wasn't making me happy.
Yeah. Okay.
So jumped over to PE stuff, worked for Plantation for a little while. That was pretty fun. Drilled some horizontal San Andres, and then they eventually sort of pulled the plug on that one. So we didn't end up getting to complete the wells, which was disappointing. Because they had great oil shows, all the mapping indicated that they were going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But, the San Andreas is a tricky play. It's sort of hit or miss, and folks got real cold on it real quick.
Okay.
So started Sable Bay Energy with that management team over there. And
So I'm on your LinkedIn, your unupdated LinkedIn. Okay, so you started okay, so now we're at Sable Bay Energy.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So went over to Sable Bay, helped raise for that from NCAP again.
How was that process of raising
Frankly, for that, we'll talk about the Juniper one after this.
Okay.
But frankly, for NCAP, it was relatively easy because they'd already worked with the management team. So they
there
had
was
a
that
track
trust
record,
there. Okay.
trust, whatever. And NCAP had wanted them to move into a more unconventional model.
Okay.
So plantation had been primarily conventional. And they tasked Don Dotson, who was my CEO at Sable Bay, with coming up with a team who could run and do some unconventional stuff.
Okay.
So that was pretty fun. We looked a lot at the Permian. We looked at the Powder River, which is where I started mapping out the Powder River.
Right.
Made a big mapping effort with that. Mapped out every formation. Made one of these heat maps that showed like where the best spots would be in the basin.
Okay.
We ended up bidding on a couple projects and ended up not getting an asset. And so sort of saw the writing on the wall there and was like, I don't really want to get into the Permian when the acreage we're looking at is $40,000 an acre.
I know now it's like what, 3?
Oh my god. Yeah, and like, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna hit your waterfall if you're spending $40K an acre. No. So left that group as well, and then I was unemployed for a hot second there. Started Boulder Exploration, a little. It was like a consulting shop. Did some education stuff. Worked with the geos over at Premier Oilfield Services on that stuff.
Okay.
It was great. Got to show folks how to like correlate logs, make maps, all kinds of stuff.
So it's a little different. It's a little different shift in your career.
Yeah. Set myself a little LLC up.
Really?
It was cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't figure that one out, so I had to hire an attorney.
That's always fun.
I mean, I don't know fucking shit about law stuff.
I don't either. That's the thing. That's the best part about this podcast.
Yeah.
I get to learn a lot, but a lot of the stuff goes over my head. But I'm very good at going, oh yeah, I'll bet it was tough.
Me too.
Sounds difficult. Like when people start talking Bitcoin, I'm like, totally.
Oh my god.
No idea.
You just throw out like blockchain, algorithms, GPUs.
Low hanging fruit, ESG.
ESG.
Yeah, these buzzwords. Yeah.
You throw them around.
So was that fun? I mean, you're teaching people at this point.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Do you enjoy that?
Teaching.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I like to talk about things that I know, and I think it reinforces it for me too. Like how do I know this?
Yeah.
Shit, maybe I don't.
Don't they say if you think you know a subject, teach it, and then you'll understand if you know it. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So what happened with Boulder?
I mean, I still have the LLC. I don't really do anything with it anymore because at that time I started talking to
Boulder. You're from Boulder. Geologist.
But it's spelled differently.
I know.
BOLD. Like
bold.
I'm bold.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, you starting your own LLC. That's a bold move.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. So then I actually started looking. Well, how do I phrase this? There was a prospect that I had kind of come across when I was with Sable Bay. But
Okay.
It wasn't an actual prospect. I didn't know it was an actual prospect. I was just like, this is an interesting area. There's some pretty good porosity over here, some good resistivity, which are geo indicators on maps that we look for.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Dogecoin.
Clearly.
So I'm looking at these maps and I'm like, this looks like a good area. I don't know, whatever. And a buddy of mine actually sent me a prospect over there. And I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. I wonder if I could like get funding for something. I don't know. Who knows? And then by happenstance, a friend of mine, Tapi Oganyami, who is at Juniper, he's over there, he called me out of the blue and was like, hey, we're trying to staff up a couple teams. I was wondering if you wanted to come in and talk to us about like your background and maybe we'll find a spot for you.
So how did Juniper know about? I'm sorry. How did they reach out to you? I mean, was it one of those things through networking or?
Out of the blue. So Tapi and I had worked at Anadarko together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he had heard that I was a good hand and was looking for somebody to come over and join one of their teams. I think they were looking for chalk at some point. I don't know. So he called me to join a team as a geologist. Then I walked in. It was like the next day. He was like, "Can you come in tomorrow?" I was like, I'm not really doing shit over here. I'm like dinking around in the garden.
I run my own company. Let me see. Let me check my schedule.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was hardly running my own company, to be honest.
But it sounds like it's just like when I was country manager in Saudi and I had 2 people under me. But it sounds good.
Exactly. Yeah. I was running my own company out of the comfort of my living room.
Founder.
Yes, founder of Boulder Exploration. Yeah. So I went in. I think it was the next day. I went in and I had seen this prospect and I was like, oh, this is my background, blah, 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 blah. You know, I've got this prospect if you guys want to see it. Did not intend to raise funding to go do this. It was literally just like fucking shot in the dark.
Well, just like trying to shoot the shit, just like,
Yeah.
hey,
I mean, yeah, it was insane. So they were like, well, yeah, we'd actually love to see it. Do you mind bringing it in next week? And I was like, sure. I guess I'll work it up real quick and I'll bring it over. And so I did a bunch of geology over the weekend, built this little kind of pitch book, sort of, took it in, showed them some preliminary stuff, showed them some preliminary economics and like EURs and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, yeah, no, we've seen this prospect before. Do you think you could build a team?
So this went from you potentially
0 to
being
60.
the geologist at this potential project to you presenting a prospect, and then them saying, "Hey, Laura, you build the team on this,"
Yeah.
or do you think you can build the
Do
team?
you think you can build a team? And I remember sitting there, I think I laughed out loud. I think I was like, what? Can I build a team? No, I don't know. I think I said, I don't know. I'll try.
Okay.
So I called a buddy and he said, oh, there's this engineer at Anadarko who just joined your old team. You got to give him a shout. So I called Patrick and we kind of talked about it a little bit. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested. Let's talk. So Patrick and I started talking. And in the process, I realized I know jack shit about land. Like, I don't know anything about land.
Okay.
So Patrick suggested this guy, Justin Ballard, who subsequently ended up coming over as well.
Okay.
Great guy. Like, also ended up being our GC. He's
Yeah, I met him before.
Yeah. Real nice. And he crushes it. So the three of us and a geologist went in there and started talking to them a little bit more. And that day, it was actually don't think Justin was there. It was just me, the geo, and Patrick. And we're sitting there, and we gave this presentation a little bit more formal of a pitch. And at the end of it, the Eddie, the CEO over there, is like, well, if I gave you $250 million to go do whatever you wanted, or $75 million to go pursue this prospect, what would you prefer?
And you're asked that right there and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just like, fuck, well, I don't know. Let me talk to these guys and we'll figure it out. So we circle up afterward and we start talking about it. And we're like, we have bird in the hand, right? We have a bird in the hand. Let's run with that. And we go and we have a drink over at BLT, my favorite bar.
Wait. The one.
Like.
BLT? Sorry, I'm so popular.
That's okay. You are popular.
So wait, BLT.
Like Better Luck Tomorrow, that bar over
Oh,
there.
yeah. Okay. I didn't know you called it BLT.
That's what that's the
Is that what it is? Okay. Is that what it is?
No.
That was the old creek, though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
BLT. Yeah,
BLT.
everyone knows BLT.
So we go over there and we're
Not the
sitting
listeners.
there and I get this phone call and they're like, hey, can you send over a G&A budget? And I'm like, what the fuck is a G&A budget? And I literally sit there on my computer and I make...
You're Googling what does
Google,
G&A mean?
What does G&A mean? And then I make this budget that has, I think, 4 line items. Salary,
Okay.
office, software, and travel. And that was
That's it.
And I sent it over and I get another phone call.
Like, no, seriously, not.
Laughing at me. They're like, are you fucking kidding?
Well, yeah, I can. Yes.
I'm like, totally kidding. Did not mean to send that. Oops.
Oh, I'm sending my draft. Let me work on the real one that I've been
Exactly.
working on, and I'll send it to you
Exactly.
2 weeks from now.
And the guy goes, it's okay, Laura. I'll send you an example. And then you just fill it out.
Okay.
So we built this G&A budget, and they called, I think it was the same day, and we're like, we want to give you funding. We're working up a term sheet. And then we went through this whole thing.
Well, time out.
Yeah.
It's something. Okay, you go from going in there and speaking up to next thing you know, it's like, hey, build this team, submit your G&A, and here's X number amount of dollars. So what was? I mean, I don't know. It sounds so surreal. So I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do this or I know. But so I guess what was going on in your mind? I guess when they said, hey, look, we'll give you X amount, like, do it. Was there any like doubt or like motivation? Let's do this. Screw it.
I am a big believer in things will come to you as they come to you, and you either take them or you don't.
Okay.
It's like I'm on this path pretty much no matter what. And if something gets presented to me, I'm going to make the choice that I make, and that's the choice that I'm supposed to make. And so it got served up to me on a silver platter. I also am a big believer in signs and symbols and all kinds of things.
Manifestation,
And it was just
energies.
like, oh shit, I guess this is happening. And I remember being a little bit freaked out at the time. The real anxiety came later.
Okay.
When we started to drill a well.
When the reality.
That's when I sprouted these 4 gray hairs.
I have a couple. I use them for business.
Yes, of course, me too.
Yes.
So it just, that time was really fun and exciting, and it was totally surreal.
Yeah,
I was like floating through it, just like, okay, whatever. Here's a logo that my buddy came up with for me. Here's what we're gonna call it.
But I mean, if you think about it, I mean, that kind of speaks to, I guess, how you went in there, how you present yourself, and how you present the prospect, how you're able to speak to these people.
Yeah.
And I mean, because they don't put people in positions they don't think that they can make money from, right?
Yeah, I was trying to hire somebody to be the CEO.
Yeah.
I went out and interviewed all these people to come be the CEO, and eventually the Juniper, I called them the bank because it's
call them the bank.
The bank. The bank called and was like, "What are you doing? We want you to be the CEO." And at that point, I remember being like, "Oh shit, okay, whoa, now it's real.
Time. Yeah.
Now it's game time." And of course, meanwhile, still doing geology, so it was the combo thing.
Well, did you just so when this opportunity came and this situation came, and obviously it's the universe throwing it at you, and you have to take it.
You have to take it. You don't say no to something like that.
So, I mean, with no formal training, besides the successful LLC, with no formal, like, I guess, training or all that stuff, because, people think, oh, well, to get to this position, I need to go get my MBA, I need to go do this, I need to go do that, and that's not necessarily true, but it seems like people feel that they have to do that to get a certain. So, I guess what I'm saying, what did you like dive into like financial books or any shit like that, like any like CEOs for dummies?
Everybody makes fun of me because I suck at spreadsheets. I mean,
if you're a CEO, you should have other people do the spreadsheets for you.
For sure.
Right?
You should see my spreadsheets. They have 4 line items. And they're rainbow color, by the way. Like, they are pretty, but they make no sense. And the sums are all wrong, but I can only do sums.
But they're artistic as fuck.
Yes, they are. They're beautiful. What's VLOOKUP? I don't know. I don't care.
So now you're interviewing people. You're the CEO, and it's no real.
It was a small team.
Yeah.
It was a small team. We work as a team. It was just my buddies and I, right? And then we just, it wasn't like, it didn't feel like I was the CEO. I mean, I don't think it was really that impressive, to be perfectly honest with you.
And that was October 2018.
Okay. So the funny part of this story is we closed on our asset on September 28th.
Okay.
We started milling the window on September 29th. We closed on our funding on October 1st.
Oh my gosh.
Which is my birthday.
Okay.
And my best friend's birthday. And she got engaged that day. And it was like this series of events. And then, so we go to New Orleans, obviously, to celebrate all this stuff. And we're drilling. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm totally losing my mind. I didn't drink the whole weekend. I'm just fielding phone calls the whole time. Like, this whole thing's going on. Obviously, we get back Sunday. And shit is actually happening. And that was like,
that's when it got real.
That's when it got real.
Yeah.
That's when it got real. It wasn't like, this is all happening. You're negotiating term sheets. Like, what the fuck do I know about negotiating term sheets? I probably sounded like such an asshole in there, but Juniper, our portfolio sponsor, has been so supportive of me this whole time. They give me grief about not knowing anything, which I'm totally cool with because I don't know anything. But
if you own it, who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, you
so,
can give me,
I'm a geologist. But I can do other things, I guess. And I will tell you, there have been so many times where I've had just mad imposter syndrome. That is real. That shit is.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine when I'm out there doing geology stuff. And then, when people ask you to interview because you're the CEO of an oil company or whatever, it's like, me?
Oh, you think you have to put on a different persona, or well, I saw this person act this way, so I'm going to try to emulate that.
I don't know. I think it's more I don't deserve this.
Okay.
Who am I? Why did I get this? What have I ever done that's made me special to get this position? People think it's so important, and I'm sitting over here just derping away in Petra, making maps and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's sort of tricky, and I think also because I hate to bring this up because I'm not a raging feminist. But as a female, geologist doing this job, it's like I'm kind of a unicorn and I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here.
Well, okay. I'll tell you what. This is something that I kind of want to bring up with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a CEO, a woman CEO, obviously, it's not male dominated. You know what I mean? The old male dominated.
Yeah, it's male dominated.
And I kind of want to talk to you about that. I mean, what's your experience has been? What's something that perhaps that I don't know or guys don't know that just let's have this conversation. And forgive my ignorance for not understanding or addressing it correctly, but I'm not a doctor. I'm a podcast hoster and I play video games. So let's talk about this.
All right, let's talk about it. What do you want to know? What is something that guys don't know?
Okay, sure, yeah. What's something that you could bring to light that
I mean, I think communication is very important. I harp on this all the time with my teammates. We need to be more communicative. But I think the biggest thing is the being open to different methods of communication, different ways that people communicate.
Like
because
what?
I think typically, for me, I have a tendency to, and I don't know that this is necessarily for all women, and it's just for me.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to listen a lot.
Okay.
And then reply, and think about things a lot, and then sometimes I don't, and sometimes I react emotionally, and it doesn't mean that I'm coming from a place of like
anger
or anything like that. It's just like
how you are.
Just different. I'm just different, and I communicate differently than you do. I try to over communicate, and I think that's very helpful in business settings. I mean, having a diverse group of people, you need that in order to get the best ideas out there.
Right.
If you don't have a diverse group of people talking about things, I don't think that you come to what could be the best decision.
What have been some common struggles that I guess you faced in your previous roles, as well as some unique struggles or obstacles or challenges, whatever you want to call them, I guess that you faced that have kind of stuck out since you took it on the CEO role?
Yeah. So before, at big companies, there's always stuff going on under the surface, and I think it's really hard to, I don't know, I like, people don't always take you seriously when you're a woman. I think that's been my experience.
So is that like you don't know what you know what you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's like the old joke, like when girls don't know really sports, you can't trust them.
Exactly.
Like, they know more than I do.
And also a lot of mansplaining.
Okay.
Like that is true. That's a real thing that happens. I'm not saying anybody in my
And what is mansplaining? No, I'm being serious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
I know, I do know, but I'm just saying there's other viewers out there that
the way that I think about it is, if somebody has a background in geology, let's call it a master's degree in geology, and they've worked as a geologist for 10 to 15 fucking years, don't fucking tell them about geology. Like, they probably know better than you.
Yeah.
And if they're a woman, it's even worse, because you're assuming that because they're a female, they're stupid and they don't know.
Okay.
That's what mansplaining is.
Okay. That happens a lot?
Not as much anymore, I would say. I mean, yeah, the group I'm in now they're doing great, and it's fun, and we're open and whatever. But in the past, it has happened quite a bit, mostly with like mentor type relationships, which is also tricky.
So what can you do about that? I mean, not just sit there and like eat that shit sandwich and smile?
Depends. For me, it depends on who the person on the other side of the fence is.
Okay.
If it is a mentor type of situation, I sit there and I smile because I respect my mentors and I want to learn from them. I'm sure something that they say will be beneficial to me, even if I know 90% of what they're saying. But there's always a nugget in there.
Right.
If it's a dude who's my age who's doing it, then I'll probably be like, can you just shut the fuck up? I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I got this.
I got this, man. So, a good example is a lot of my buddies from grad school. Sometimes I'll just be like, stop it. Just quit.
Yeah.
We all know that you think you're the smartest guy in the room. Shut the fuck up.
So how do you promote? So you just said you're not a feminist. You're a
equalist. Is what we said. Equalitarian.
Equestrian.
Equestrian. An equestrian.
So what? I guess being that, I'm not going to say it because I've butchered it enough. But I mean, so what do you like? Is there like other female people in leadership roles, or are you mentoring? Is there opportunities to mentor younger females in the industry or want to get in the industry or stuff like that? Is there stuff out there?
It's been really hard. I have struggled with mentorship in the past because I don't feel like there are very many people like me who can mentor me.
Okay.
I've been looking for a mentor for a really long time. Mentee wise, I'm sort of in a weird spot because I'm relatively younger than a lot of the people who might have this role. So I try to find mentees, but with all the layoffs and stuff, there's like not that many people who I could try to help. And I will say my sister-in-law, actually, she's a young geologist. She lives in Colorado. She's got her PhD. She just started at BPX in Denver. And she's a crusher. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like she and I have a pretty good mentor-mentee relationship. But she's like one of the only people I can find.
It's like your sister-in-law.
Yeah, and it's like, she's right there, so I might as well help her
It's not really a mentee. It's more
exactly.
family
It's
time.
more family. So it's tricky. I don't feel like something that I am passionate about that I would like to do is more mentorship types of things. And it doesn't matter if the person's a man or a woman or whatever. I don't give a shit. But I'd love to talk about my experience. I think this is actually, I was telling you earlier, I love this platform. I'm really glad you called me. I'm happy to talk about this stuff because I don't think enough people know that there are other types of folks out there who think a little bit differently. So it's kind of fun.
And that's kind of been the blessing of this, because it's like, that's, again, and I've harped on this. I think whoever's out there listening, they probably know it's like, in the oil field, I mean, there's stereotypes. There's the engineer guy, the standard engineer nerd like Patrick Moffat.
100%.
And there's like the roughnecks and Copenhagen, and then there's the sales guys who play golf and just drink all the time.
Yeah, I should have been in sales.
Right? You should with your banter, absolutely. So it seems like, and that's the thing. That's the blessing of this, because it's like, this is a platform because everyone's different. Everyone has their own story. No one falls in the same category. I had one engineer on, Tyler Thompson. He just took out his guitar, started playing the intro and outro, and started playing Metallica. I had this other guy who bought a coffee. JD Smith bought a coffee farm in Bolivia. It's just like everyone's different.
Yeah. And it's so nice to take that into consideration. That's what I'm saying about communication is, even if you completely communicate differently than I do, I'm still going to sit here and listen and respect where you're coming from.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing.
Even if we disagree.
Even if we disagree, which we also talked about earlier, there's a lot of disagreement right now.
That's okay
too. Patrick can give me grief about voting for Joe Biden, but guess what? I don't care. We can still get along and still be friends and still have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
There's I mean, just because you disagree on one subject, there's a million other things to discuss.
I mean, I still work in oil and gas.
I know.
And I can rationalize that all day long.
You can have your own. Who gives a shit? You have your own view. What are some? I guess what are some big themes? I mean, you talk about mansplaining. You talk about that. What's some shit that you see that kind of just grinds your gears about? I guess being a woman in the oil and gas industry in a leadership position. Yeah. Or even not in a leadership position. What are you seeing? I mean, what kind of just grinds your gears that's kind of you're over it? I mean, and what could be done?
Leave them alone.
Leave them alone. Don't include them.
Don't fucking oogle people. Just let a woman be a woman and do what she's doing and don't make it weird.
Yeah.
There's so much making it weird. Don't touch him strange. Don't talk to him strange. There's all kinds of shit that happens that's totally unnecessary. Just give her some space. Let her say her piece. Listen when she's speaking. And then, it's fine. That's what I'm over. Don't be weird. Stop making this weird.
and that's kind of what, talking to you before you came on this podcast. I'm like, hey, look, I do kind of want to talk about, you being a woman in the leadership position, CEO. But is that okay? Because I don't like addressing oh, well, you got this, you're here, and as a woman, tell me, because I don't know, and
it's also hard to talk about. For me, it's really hard to talk about because I don't want to be portrayed as, a raging feminist.
Or a CEO because you're a woman.
Exactly.
And that shit.
That's exactly right.
And that's why I don't like, it's not that I love talking about it, but it's one of those things where it's tough for me because it's I want to talk to you about, being a CEO at a company and also being a woman, but I don't want to make that that's why you're there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I struggle with that also. And obviously with my background, it's just, and a geologist, God forbid a geologist become a CEO. Oof, what are they going to do? Just hike around all day?
Hike around, paint rocks.
Paint pictures?
Yeah.
What do they call it? High risk coloring?
Is that what it's called? High risk coloring?
High risk coloring.
But I mean, that's the thing though. It's you want to engage in these conversations, and obviously, being a woman in that role, it's hard because it's a lot of times not a lot of times, and I'm assuming and whatever, but it's they got the position because of this, because of their dad, because they're a woman, because whatever,
and it devalues my background,
yeah,
right? My work that I've done for so many years, and I try not to think of it that way, and I try to think of myself as, just who I am.
Yeah.
I'm a geologist, I'm a CEO, whatever. I don't try to genderize anything. I'm just like here. Sometimes I think it's important to talk about that, though, and I really appreciate you bringing it up because I don't get a chance to talk about it very often. And, especially with my team, I try to be as neutral as possible because not everybody reacts the same way when I talk about it either. That's the other hard part is you never know who's going to be like, just stop bringing up the girl stuff, Laura. Don't bring that up. It's like, okay, well, it's real, but
yeah, but
go over here and hide.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So how do we continue to have these, I guess, conversations about it without?
I think you just have to have the conversations. If you aren't having them, then it's continuing to hide in the corner. And you have to be open to what somebody says and understand where they're coming from, right? Like have some empathy for who they are.
That's a big
right?
word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think 2020 taught me a lot about empathy. You have to really understand where someone's coming from. Like people react because of what's going on in their lives. And if you're just reacting to react, that's the wrong thing. And don't think that I'm just reacting to react. Think about what's happening in my life, what could be happening in my life. I mean, my dog could be dying today. And the reason I'm crying or yelling at you is because of this other thing. It's not because I'm pissed at you. It's because of other stuff that's going on in my life. And you just have to understand that people have their own shit going on.
And that's the thing. My wife dropped off some dry cleaners and walked in without a mask, and accidentally she overheard this person being like, "Oh, these kids these days," and she's like, "Oh yeah, totally." She's like, "Oh shit, it's me."
Oh, yeah,
well, anyway,
exactly.
this lady was very, very, very rude to her, and she called me after, and I was like, "Hey, look."
Full Karen mode.
Yeah, but she was working there. She was working there, and I was like, "Well, honey, you gotta understand. I'm sure she's been impacted some reason from COVID and all that." Well, turns out she was talking to my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, my father-in-law passed away. My dad's not doing well." So there's all this stuff going on in people's lives, and it's one of those things. It's like, just back up a little bit. You don't have to always be right.
Yeah.
You can be right with yourself. You don't always have to tell other people why you're right.
That's the other thing is it's all about how you react. It's all about I need to think about how I need to react in this situation.
Yeah.
Being reactive is not good. Thinking about what is my perception of this person's behavior? Like, can I change my perception of this person's behavior by understanding that their dad just died from COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes me feel totally different about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just sort of what's
I think
my head lately.
that's the point of this. I mean, that's a good point. Like empathy and understanding where someone's coming from, and having these discussions, whether it's you're a woman, whether you're black, whether you're whatever you are, gay, straight,
you're a human.
It doesn't matter.
You're
It's just one of these things. Engaging in these conversations, and just because you disagree with it, or just because you didn't see that on your Facebook and it telling you how to feel about that, it's okay to not get worked up about things and just kind of listen and talk.
I think so too. Yeah. And talking about it's tricky for me. I mean, I'm in this position as a CEO, and sometimes I don't know what I should say or what I shouldn't say. But you're right. If we aren't talking about it, I think things get worse.
Yeah.
So
in those conversations, just bring it up and just kind of just listen.
Just talk about it. Yeah. And don't act like I'm making a big deal out of something. I just want to talk. I'm a talker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the one that brought it up. So
that's good. I'm glad you did. Is
there anything else on this subject about women in the oil and gas industry, women in leadership positions that we can talk about right now?
I don't know. Let me think about that. I mean, I think we need more of them. I think they typically do a pretty good job. They have great ideas. They got great skill sets. Not that, I think hire obviously the person who's most qualified for the role. I was not qualified. So just hire people, I guess. I don't know.
Personal experience taken out, but just hire people. So let's talk about that. So to young listeners out there, people trying to advance their career, women in the oil and gas industry that are trying to advance their career to get to leadership positions. What advice besides walking in somewhere and pitching something like you just did? What advice would you have for women out there that are in the industry that are looking to
I think it's going to sound super cliche, but be yourself and don't give a fuck what other people think.
Amen.
And I do. Someone said this the other day. I have in the past been a people pleaser. Right? That's been my pattern for a really long time. But ultimately, it's kind of not, because I've never really cared what people think. If I know something's right in my heart, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And if I know this is who I am, I'm going to be me. It's just, how else could I have walked into Juniper and been like, hey, here I am.
Yeah. and then submit a 4-line
Yeah.
G&A thing, and you're like, yeah, that's
so
what you
embarrassing.
got. That's what you got.
Here you go. Oops.
I think being yourself, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, there's the women that I encounter in the oil and gas industry, the ones that I connect with, and that are the ones that are themselves, that aren't trying to be a certain way to blend in or fit, just like they're genuine people. And I've noticed actually I feel like, I'm not going to say success, because obviously it's 2020, it's been a shit show. But I would say, like, when my exposure started coming out, when I started being myself, before I thought, like, oh, I got to fit in this corporate role and not be silly on LinkedIn, but I can only be silly over here. But like, once you start being yourself and be genuine, anyone, male or female, that's when you kind of have more fun. And B, you kind of, I hate it when someone doesn't like me. You know what I mean?
Yourself more.
But I just don't give a shit either. You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
You drop the things that don't matter.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we actually talked about that earlier too. In 2020 was the year of figuring out what serves you and what doesn't. Yeah. And if something doesn't serve you, you need to get the fuck rid of it. Yeah. Yeah. I put energy into it. Exactly. And it is all about the energy. It's about what you're putting out there, what you're taking in, how you're presenting yourself. You know, I like to have fun. I don't want to look like some stodgy old white guy. I'm not that. Yeah. So I'm not going to pretend like I am that, And
the success of your company is not going to hinge on you fitting into the certain.
No. In fact, I think the success of my company hinges on me being who I am.
Being who you are. Exactly.
And like people responding to that however they're going to respond to it, and my team responding and then my team, the way my team works, right? Like I think that I always tell them this, but I think the most important thing is chemistry. Like, how does the team work? Is it good? Is it clicking? Are we clicking? How are we communicating? How are we getting along? It's teamwork, right? Like that. If you don't have an A team that's all kind of understanding of each other, I don't think you're going to have success. You got to have a good team. Okay. Yeah.
So one piece of advice is be yourself, be genuine, don't give a shit. Yep. Another one? And what's one more?
I mean, I think it is.
What about taking on roles, like approaching roles or approaching projects and all that stuff? Like insert yourself?
Yeah, I mean, just do it. Yeah. If you feel drawn towards something, I would recommend just trying it. Like I don't know. I've never really felt like I needed to put myself into a specific niche. Like if you want to try something, go fucking try it. Just do it. Yeah. I mean, if you're an engineer and you want to be a geologist, like that would never happen.
You're not smart
You're not smart enough. Not good at coloring.
Or hiking.
Do it. Or hiking. Just do it. I mean, just go have fun with it. I mean, life, we only get one of them.
Yep. That's right.
And you might as well have fun with it while you can. And if you want to try something, go try it.
So you've kind of restructured your, thought process during this whole COVID time, I guess, staying at the house and kind of like, because you were extrovert.
Yes.
And then and through this process, you've enjoyed the time alone. You've enjoyed reflecting, understanding. Look, to be a hardcore conservative, we need to have liberals.
The balance of energy.
There's a balance of everything.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So you're touching on that hippie thing that we were talking about earlier.
I dig it.
I know. So I always sort of lilted that way anyway. Obviously, chick from Boulder, I mean, that's just sort of what I grew up with. But lately during this time, I think it's really struck me that, there's always going to be good and evil, and they always exist in the same time, in the same space. And
it's what you focus on.
It's what you choose to focus on that's important. And what your perception is.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, there's so much noise being thrown at us, and what sells? It's the scary stuff that sells.
Exactly, and it's yucky.
It's the fearful stuff that sells. And Monica and I were talking to our daughter, and it's like we're talking to her, and she's like, "Daddy, I hate the news." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit. That's why." I'm like, "That's why we never have it on when you're at home with us." And we're talking about that, and I'm like, "What would you rather me tell you? Wash your hands so you don't get sick and you don't spread to others, or wash your hands or everyone's going to die. You're going to kill grandma. You're going to kill me. You're going to kill everyone." And all of a sudden she goes, "Oh my, the first one." I go, "Well, the news does the second one." And that's the thing. If you kind of just trim all that noise and the news telling you to be upset about something, like, "Oh, this happened. You should be pissed about this." No, I don't know it. I don't know what's going on in Boise, Idaho. Like, I don't care about that.
Exactly. And prioritizing the things that actually have meaning to you, right? Like the connections that are that help you foster that positive perception, those are the important ones.
Yeah.
And to put your energy towards the things that are bringing positivity into your life.
And that's not just financial. That's everything.
Everything. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
And I think, it's only been a year since I really started putting that into practice, but like I assume that good things come out of that.
Yeah.
And I think that in general, I try to have that perspective. I think I've gotten trapped. It's this whole COVID thing's been really hard. I felt like I was in a drain, just slowly circling for a while.
Wow, with the news being on.
Oh yeah, that first couple months, I think the news was constantly on, and I was like, I'm
over
cutting
it.
this off.
It got to a point. I was waking up at like 3:30 or 4 a.m. checking the news, and I couldn't go back to bed, or 2 a.m. and I couldn't go back to bed.
I know, it was awful. So then cutting everything out, I got a new house, and it's like my sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
Like I set it up exactly how I wanted. It's so pretty. I sit in there and I can just zen out and chill and listen to music if I want. I can watch a stupid movie if I want. I can just like hang out by myself. Most of the time I actually don't even put music on. I just like the silence, which is so weird for me.
I love music.
Because I've been an extrovert most of my life, and like now I just really like to be alone.
I just love music in the background.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, we don't watch the news. We don't have the news. I don't care about the news.
Music is great.
Yeah.
That's another touchstone of like energy, right? Like that's a positive energy sort of thing. The music imbues like this certain feel. And
when you're sad, you like hearing sad music.
Totally,
and then there's always that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been into music rut though. So I asked my buddy recently, I was like, just give me your Spotify list. I just need something.
Yeah.
He came over the other day. He's like, oh, I see you took my Spotify list.
What kind of music?
Like Grateful Dead and like some
Fish. I never got into Fish. Those are those 90s
Boulder here, right?
Red Rocks.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it's been funny and interesting, but yeah, he was very proud of me.
Really?
Also a geologist.
Oh.
Obviously.
I love how you surround yourself with geologists. That's awesome.
I mean, I'm trying not to, but they just end up showing up in my life.
One thing I kind of want to touch on, we're kind of coming to the end of this, but I mean, do you have time?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
I kind of want to talk about this because one thing that we've been discussing on this podcast, the number one podcast out there, is again, talking about the stereotypes on oil and gas and the fact that there's, again, the news is right in the narrative, fossil fuels versus renewables, this versus that, the decline, whatever all that stuff is. And the fact is, here in our industry, we are environmentalists. And I want you to kind of just speak to that just a little bit because, again, we're highlighting the people, in our industry. Right. We're trying to pop that bubble of, so I guess
I have a lot of personal experience with that, right? Like being from Boulder, I've had people, my best friend's family has this like party every year, and some of their friends found out that I was in oil and gas when I was introduced to them, and they wouldn't fucking shake my hand.
Really?
And so I went over to that woman afterward and was like, look, I need to explain something to you. I am probably one of the most environmentally focused people you know. The only reason I'm in oil and gas is because I know we need it, and I know I can make a difference in continuing to be an environmentalist over here. Like, what the fuck, man? What car did you drive over here? Do you know what went into the creation of that vehicle?
Yeah.
Do you know what went into your gas tank?
Like, don't be so smug and not shake a hand.
Oh my God, that was probably one of the hardest things that's ever happened.
But good for you to approach that situation. I'd be like, screw you.
I'm a scientist, man. Like, you believe me. Don't believe the media. I'm the one who's
standing
out there doing it.
To actively go in and engage in these conversations, and I think we need to be doing more of that, and not in a combative way.
No, just like an honest, open. Yeah. It's just like talking about feminism.
Yeah.
You just have to have the conversation. I think oil and gas has had a PR problem for so long. Yeah. And part of that is because of who's been running it for so long. So people like me, young female geo out there from Boulder, like I'm the kind of person we need out there having these conversations. And I mean, obviously environmentalism is the most important thing right now with the way that we're extracting.
And we've done such a shitty job too when it comes to communicating, because what we do, like, and you're seeing kind of a shift in this since COVID, is like before, marketing or storytelling oil and gas was done by these big companies, Chevron, Exxon. We do this like every year we invest. That doesn't sell anything. That doesn't tell the personality of the people behind it. No. So we haven't taken upon ourselves to write the narrative, and tell our stories. And now you're seeing a lot of companies trust their employees to do their marketing or branding, and it has much more personality.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, groups like Energy Strong, I think Energy
Yep.
Strong is doing some really good work. I try on a personal level to make sure Anadarko had these shirts that they put out, gosh, several years ago that said, keep Colorado green, frack local, or something like that.
Okay.
And so I got as many as I could, and I gave them to all my friends in Boulder because it's like, come on, guys, like they support me. So what's interesting is that being from Boulder, I am surrounded by people who are also environmentalists, right? But don't necessarily understand why I do what I do. So I seed information to all my friends. I'm like, hey, here's how it actually works. And they trust me and they know me and they love me. So they believe me, right?
Yeah.
And then they can go and tell their buddies about what's going on.
That's what it is. It's having those conversations with, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be, and I've always, I was on a clubhouse room the other day and we're talking about environmental, we got to be doing this. I'm like, guys, it kind of starts, so I posted a picture of Evelyn and I going to
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, it starts there. So she'll start telling her friends. Your friends start telling their friends. It's just one of those things. It's not this whole big let's post what we do. It's more let's talk to our neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk to our friends. Let's talk to our neighbors.
And I think we weren't going to talk about ESG, but I think it's really important to keep that in mind as we move forward as an industry, because it is the thing that will make us more approachable to people who are not necessarily approaching us the right way right now. And part of that is communicating these things correctly and making sure that people know that. For example, we've got a little Bitcoin mine up at our well site so that all of the flare gas goes through the Bitcoin mine and we're not flaring. So when you start to talk about these things like CO2 capture, yes, absolutely, that's hugely important. And I think we should all be making efforts toward doing it.
But that's one of those things that we need to be talking about when it happens, not after the fact. Like, the gas let this one, but we did this first. No, we need to say promoting the things we're in a positive light.
I think so too. And I think part of it, is, with the Colorado stuff going on, SB 181 and all that, like it's hard to communicate those messages the right way. And I think the communication of the message needs to be improved. And I don't know how to bring together those disparate groups of people, but I think that's going to end up being really important. But, like we always say, it's the versus community.
Yeah.
The versus mentality right now.
The camp mentality, whatever it is. Yeah.
And I don't think that's cool. I think everything's on a spectrum. Like everybody's got a little bit of everything, and why can't we treat it that way instead?
Yeah, it really is just kind of reframing these conversations.
Totally.
It's reframing our communication, what we're doing on the ESG side, because I feel like companies aren't going to get funding unless they have ESG initiatives, like major ones.
I mean, as a private, I don't think we'll be bought unless we have ESG.
Right, exactly.
Because the majors are probably going to buy the little guys and all this stuff, and they need to have ESG because who's important over there is the investors. And even LPs and stuff, LPs are wise enough, the guys who are investing in private equity, they're all asking about ESG now too. So you got to have it. You want funding? You better have an ESG policy.
And that's the thing. I completely agree with you. We're all on a spectrum. You got to shift. You got to shift your mindset. You got to shift the conversation.
And just be kind to people. Understand where they're coming from, and even if you disagree, which is totally fine, at least be nice when you're doing it.
Yeah. and honestly, if you disagree with someone, don't take it with you. Like
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. Be kind. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
keep Colorado green, frack local. Be kind. Don't be an asshole. And that's what you're leaving us with.
Yep. Boom. There you go.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming in today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
And I'd love to get you back on again. Just kind of have a different conversation in a couple months. And I wish y'all the best. And thanks and everyone again. This is I need to pull up so I don't get the company, because I always say Century Natural.
Yeah,
anyway.
we got a couple names. So Century Natural Resources.
So this is Laura Fidler, the CEO of Century Natural Resources, and I appreciate you coming in. I thought this was a really good conversation, and I hope I got a lot out of it, and I hope the listeners do too. If not, I enjoyed it. So
awesome.
thank you so much for coming in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.